As we all know, Roblox has seen its ups and downs since it was released in 2006. What I haven't seen yet, though, is someone who is weird and obsessive enough to put them all in order from least bad to 2017. Obviously, this list will probably be irreconcilable with the younger kids on Roblox who believe the year they joined was by far the best year, as well as the old heads who joined before most of the previous group's parents even thought about having kids. Anyways, what I hope to catalog in this video is each year from worst to best, alongside a few reasons as to why they were placed in that position, as well as some good things for the bad years and bad things for the good years, just to keep everything kind of balanced. Of course, this list will have bias, but that's the point of a ranking, isn't it? I'll try not to make this thing too long, but some years, especially those in the first third and the last third of the video, will have substantially more to talk about. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from our sponsor, my YouTube channel, full of all kinds of the craziest videos and takes on various platforms the internet has to offer. Click the little red button if you're into that kind of stuff, or don't, I don't really care, like, at all. It's your choice. So anyways, on to the first ranking. Sorry, I hate that song. 2017, a year full of pointless modernization, bad company decisions, the removal of the forums, the Spambot Epidemic, etc. With the sole exception of Egg Hunt 2017, this whole year was just a mess from day one. It is clear that Roblox was rapidly trying to change their platform by burning down the pillars of old. As a business, this is kind of necessary sometimes, but I feel like Roblox has done a better job at building off of these old pillars and creating more moderate changes to the platform as of recent. Sometimes, I'm going to be going through each of the major things Roblox set fire to during this year in order of when they happened, just to detail how awful they handled their own platform during this period of time. As a sort of like number zero to this whole thing, something that kind of took place throughout this whole year was the Spambot Epidemic. Literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of spam bots trashed the site, constantly sending scam messages to users, flooding games with fake joins and scam messages, follow botting random people, etc. It was a really tough thing that Roblox applied several band-aid fixes for, which, unsurprisingly, just didn't even work. The only times they worked were when, instead of patching it with, I don't know, like a CAPTCHA, they either made odd fixes that just inconvenienced normal players or just straight up deleted useful resources that everyday players use frequently. Of course, none of this stopped them from continuing to harass the platform anyways. And alongside that, in around this period of time, literally hundreds of account dumps were getting released of upwards of hundreds of thousands of users' accounts that were likely scammed through these methods. So that just kind of goes to show how insane this period of time was for scam bots. Roblox decided to strip the single most famous and recognizable thing their company had down to something completely unrecognizable and boring for the sake of modernization: the logo. Now, 5 years later, I don't think the logo is awful, especially since they kind of gave it a metallic sheen that is actually somewhat recognizable, but you know, that came like a year later. Compared to the old logo though, it just sucks. Like, this is what I wish they would have changed the logo to. There was no reason for this to happen the way it did, but the Roblox R was just much more recognizable and, importantly, attributable to the actual damn name of the platform. This tilted O, Bethesda has the same logo just without the rotation. It really is just boring and uninspired. Odd for a company that touts their love of creativity and inspiration. The next month, Roblox decided to chop the leg off many older Roblox games by prohibiting users under 13 from searching for games without filtering enabled on. If you've watched my exploiting video, which you should definitely check out after this, you remember this has to do with preventing the player from being able to manipulate the server from their end without any checks in place to prevent malicious use of that ability. Now, if Zonathan Roblox 2010 wanted to play some prison life, he'd be out of luck. Of course, this did nothing but inconvenience the youngest of the under 13 crowd and serve as a gate without walls for those old enough to realize the earth-shattering power of lying about your age. After about 2 months of mostly nothing, except the egg hunt, but we'll get to that later, at the very beginning of May, the infamous forum raid by Quackity happened. As per the usual, Roblox went bizarro mode, and instead of preparing for something like this in advance, they just panicked and shut the forums down and gradually reopened it over the next following few days. Nice going, guys. A month later, everything I just said happened again, and Roblox took the exact same course of action rather than having learned from their past mistakes. Again, nice going, guys. In July, Roblox made many futile attempts to try and quell the massive Spambot problem I mentioned earlier. Nothing worked. They also deleted a bunch of subforums, which was alright, I guess, but was sort of foreshadowing to what they do later this year. In October, Roblox made the sort of forgotten about move to remove guests from the platform entirely, except on mobile for whatever reason. Most people can't agree on whether or not this is a good or a bad change, whereas for me I kind of sit in the middle. They were useful for new players, but honestly were kind of a remnant of an older form of Roblox's business model that wasn't useful anymore due to how popular the site was. Still sad to see them go though. Later that month, they removed game genres. Apparently this was to combat clickbait games, which doesn't make a lot of sense in my opinion. One of the single best ways to discover new games in your favorite categories were just removed in an instant. Sort of alluding back to the idea to combat the Spambot epidemic, they just kind of removed important features that were useful to the everyday player in a futile attempt to combat a problem they had no idea how to realistically solve. In December, Roblox decided to just up and remove the forums. My problem with this isn't that they removed it per se, but the fact they gave people no warning, no heads up, nothing. They just made everything read-only the same day of the announcement on the 4th of December, then just deleted it all on the 12th. Archive sites do exist now, but Roblox very easily could have driven a lot of traffic to their platform by having an official read-only archive that they themselves could have moderated after the forums were shut down to ensure that only normal posts stayed around, of which many had some important information about the history of the platform as well as the thoughts and actions of the player base at the time. Really, this was just overall a dumb decision by Roblox and could have been handled a lot better. And just to cap it all off, Roblox decided to do another shitty holiday giveaway this year, and it would be the last Christmas-themed gift-receiving thing ever. Not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but we were all kind of hoping that they would have not done the same as they did in 2016, but they just did it. I remember being hyped for both 2016 and 2017 to do an actual gift hunt, but they never happened. Anyways, moving away from that stuff, now as I promised, I'll list some of the things that I actually liked about this year, and some of the things were some of the best things that actually happened to Roblox in the platform's history. Egg Hunt 2017 was, bar none, one of the best events in Roblox's history. It was phenomenal. I remember having tempered expectations after playing all the way through Egg Hunt 2016, which was kind of the Hungry Howies of Roblox events. It was mid as hell, but being blown away by the quality of the whole event. Maybe one day I'll do an Egg Hunt retrospective series, kind of like what Epic Rika did, but only for the Egg Hunts through 2016 through 2020. Our 15 animation packs were released, which were, I don't know, kind of cool. They allowed you to be more expressive, and generally I think it was one of the best avatar customization decisions Roblox has made, but for myself, I don't really care too much. The hybrid event style of this entire year was actually really nice. Not all of the events had unique games for them, but many of the major ones, like Egg Hunt obviously, Roblox Holiday 2017, Roblox Heroes, etc. had some really engaging and albeit buggy games that were still fun to play. I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here, but I'm kind of done ripping on 2017. Overall, this year was straight ass, like really. Some good things happened, but they don't even hold a candle to all the magnitude of the bad/unnecessary things that happened in 2017. But let's move on to the next year down the line, one that definitely wasn't as bad, but still had some really disappointing parts that really leaves a bad taste in my mouth for the platform. Well, as we saw, it can't get much worse than 2017. 2019, though, had its fair share of stupid things and terrible decisions that, by this point, is about par for the course with this damn company. Unsurprisingly, this year is ranked the second worst because of how many pillars they burnt and destroyed this year, just like 2017. Although they did burn less, maybe it's just because they did most of the destruction already. Although less than the previous entry, I'm still going to go into chronological order detailing all of the bad things that happened this year, followed by a segment of things that were actually alright. Starting the year off with a healthy dose of poor multi-billion-dollar OPSEC, a seemingly powerful security breach happened on January 9th, allowing random throwaway accounts to create random places within some popular games, as well as many of them being set to private. These included Jailbreak, Welcome to Bloxburg, Doomspire Brick Battle, and a few others. No idea how this was even able to happen, but I guess it slipped through the cracks of Roblox's incredibly well-qualified security team. EggHunt 2019 was announced. By far one of the most disappointing events Roblox has ever done. Still blows my mind to this day how they managed to fuck it up so badly, but more on that later. This year, Roblox began to go crazy with their copyright ID system. This is the beginning of Roblox's absurd fiasco with copyright law that, even 3 years later, they are only just now able to figure out properly. But that's only after privating most of the audio on the site, but that's not a big deal, right? They introduced this thing called a, quote, 3-strike system, wherein after uploading copyright material 3 times, your account's deleted. No appeals, nothing. This is awesome because it protects all of the poor struggling companies such as Nintendo, Universal Music Group, and Disney from having their rightful property that some dead guy actually put the work into making 50 years ago, stolen by the evil, malevolent, heartless monster that is Zonathan Roblox 2010 to use in his free modeled skateboarding game. In all seriousness though, I'm less upset about how copyright law works in the US, which definitely needs some tweaking. Rather, I'm upset about the fact that Roblox, who literally had a decade and a half to find a solution to this, once again waited until a stick was shoved up their ass by other companies and the media to take action. But hey, no surprises there. On April 2nd, the day after April Fool's Day, Roblox decided to announce that they were going to up and just delete events. Like, they were just not going to have them anymore. The thing that the whole community had bonded over for literally 13 years was to be replaced by live ops, which, although a decent idea, was already dead by the end of the year. This, by far, is just about the worst single event that took place this entire year. This meant, essentially, no more regular events, which had actually been pretty good for the past year or so, but that they'd, quote, keep seasonal events. Everybody was mad at this, some more than others, but at least we were all able to breathe a collective sigh of relief that the classics such as the Egg Hunt, Halloween, and Christmas events would still be, and they silently changed the dev forum post a week later or so to include that the removal of seasonal events was also happening. Awesome! In that same month, on April 18th, as referenced in number 2, Egg Hunt 2019 dropped, and boy did it shatter, not our expectations, those were quite disappointed. Everything about this event, barring some of the original content, was just straight garbage. Most of the games were cash grabs, the ones that actually had work put into them were poorly balanced and often were very buggy, and only a few games actually had a significant amount of work put into them. After Egg Hunt 2018, being the second best Egg Hunt in my opinion, and a well-loved and respected event across the board, seeing this steaming pile of shit drop onto the platform was quite a shocker. Again, I'd like to go back and revisit this event at some point in a sort of retrospective series, so comment down below if you'd like to see that. In May, Roblox announced they'd be partnering with a stable, respected, and beloved entity, the Chinese Communist Party, Tencent, a company with absolutely no links to the harshly authoritarian and repressive Chinese government. I already did an entire video on this, so go check it out after this video. It's definitely worth a watch if you're interested in this kind of stuff. But yeah, that's about it for 2019. Hopefully the next years will go by a bit quicker, as I believe 2017 and 2019 were 2 murder twins for the Roblox platform, and while the others were more just minor inconveniences. Up next is a year that, while pretty bad, did have some interesting and important things happen in it. 2020, which is much more in recent memory for most of the people watching this video, is well known for being one of the most successful years for Roblox as a company. But is it as much of a monumental steaming pile of shit that 2017 was, or as brutally disappointing and as boring as 2019 was? Let's find out. As mentioned earlier, the years from now on until closer to the end of the video will be covered in a bit of a shorter time period, so I will be simplifying some things and ignoring others for the sake of time. There were actually lots of good engine changes this year, most notably the Future's Bright Phase 2.5 and 3.0 being released. Now, Roblox can look slightly less like Legos and more like Legos with cool shaders. However, as Egg Hunt 2020 was announced and then promptly released, it became what I believe to be just about the worst event in Roblox history. Not because it was bad, and not even because it was boring, but just because of how utterly lazy it was. Like, if you weren't there for it, I can barely even describe my disappointment when this egg hunt rolled around. No central lobby, no consistent theme, even though they clearly tried to have one, and more, albeit slightly better, copy-paste entries for this year. In 2020, Roblox also got closer to China, releasing their, quote, global compliance system, alongside the wonderful platform known as Luobu, which is essentially a watered-down version of Roblox that makes Xi Jinping crack a cute little smile. Lots of fun hacking escapades happened this year as well, from the innocent and harmless, such as Tubers93 backdooring Meep City and accessing a voice chat prototyping game in 2 separate events, to the downright sinister wherein a user bribed a Roblox employee into giving them admin panel access, allowing them to access the account information of some of the most wealthy and important people on Roblox, such as LinkMon99. But overall, this year wasn't a clusterfuck like 2017 and 2019, but it certainly wasn't good. It was also the beginning of Roblox's rapid march towards corporatism as they prepared to make their initial public offering to the US stock exchange, meaning more collaborations with other big companies from around the world. Yes, this includes Tencent, as well as other things that, companies have to do to get ready to actually become a public company. 2020 acted as sort of a transition period from Roblox's late stage 2010s business model into the current modern business model we see from them today. 2016 also experienced a similar period of transition. Speaking of which, let's move on to the next year. As a whole, 2016 actually had a lot going for it. The first concepts for R15 were teased and actually later released, and the egg hunt returned to form and went back to being a single place, contrary to 2015, and they actually re-enabled the use of underscores and usernames. As mentioned earlier, 2016 marked a significant change in Roblox's business model, and unlike 2020, this was the year Roblox realized they were no longer a small player in the tech scene. Since new players began exponentially joining the platform starting in late 2015, Roblox saw huge jumps in player numbers and interactions. However, as most veterans like me and some even newer players definitely remember, 2016 marked the year that ticks were removed off the platform. Honestly, I can't really decide if this was a good or a bad change, because on the one hand, it is good for the platform to have a non-rare currency to be used to help newer players get off the ground with avatar customization, game advertisement, among other things, without having to spend any money. But on the other hand, as I mentioned earlier, it didn't fit too well with Roblox's modernizing business model. On top of this, 2016 was the year Roblox ended their overwhelmingly hated Giftsplosion events and replaced them with the much more engaging and fun events called Holiday Giveaways, where you just got stuff for free without even trying, which is obviously a fucking blast. This year, though, marks by far one of the most dangerous breaches in Roblox history, leading to literally hundreds of thousands of accounts from before 2012 being compromised. I also remember when this happened, and at one point, I had access to all 8 documents that detailed every account's username, email, account status, IP addresses, and other miscellaneous information from account IDs 1 through 100,000. I didn't do anything with these IDs or anything like this. I didn't even know how to use it. I just downloaded it because I thought it would be cool to have, but it's long gone by now anyways. It was a huge oversight on Roblox's part and led to many old accounts from between 2006 and 2012 being terminated due to them being compromised. I actually remember there being account dumps of literally thousands of accounts that were created in this time period, which is kind of crazy to think about. If you're wondering why I placed 2016 above 2020 though, it's nostalgia. That's literally it. Also, 2020 was way more corporate, so there's that. Other than that, though, we have one more year which I think belongs in the quote-unquote bad category. But this year is more of a mixed bag between pretty bad things and pretty alright things, which is why I placed it so much higher than the others. 2018 was quite the tumultuous period in Roblox history. A lot of good things happened, and a lot of questionable things happened, and some bad things happened. 2018 marked one of the best years for events on the platform and one of the worst for new company policy. The latter is different from 2017 to 2019, where Roblox just made very shitty knee-jerk decisions to try and combat the growing pains of the platform, whilst making very few good changes in that time. In 2018's case, many new concepts were introduced, such as everyone's favorite avatar enhancement system, Arthro, which Roblox themselves gave up on pushing when they removed the Arthro sponsored category on the games page. Similarly, as I covered in my History of Roblox exploiting video, 2018 was also the year Roblox gradually phased out and, eventually, deprecated the ability to disable filtering enabled in games. Unfortunately, A few bad actors caused Roblox to make a 2017-esque knee-jerk reaction and immediately suspend any compromise between having filtering enabled and non-filtering enabled games on the platform. This instantly broke some of the old classic games on the platform that utilized the ability for the client to interfere with the server, making thousands of games instantly dead. However, on the community side of things, the events this year were actually quite the sweet spot for Roblox. There was lots of collaborative input from Roblox as a company alongside from its developers. They had a much more rigid and easy to follow formula of one main event per month that often featured a specific theme or idea that games would, oftentimes, actually follow. Similarly, we get two of some of the best Roblox events in history, Egg Hunt 2018 and Ready Player One. Say what you will about Ready Player One, but the extreme difficulty, often complemented by buggy gameplay, really made the event stand out as a unique challenge that involved fun prizes rather than the usual Melvin Gaming 9999 level of difficulty that meant even the smallest of children could accidentally get some free hats. In that similar vein, Egg Hunt 2018, while I still prefer 2017 over it, was actually a really great event. The one thing it far outshined over 2017 was its consistent and actually good movement mechanics. You might be wondering why I listed 2018 as a bad year when I painted it in, at worst, a pretty neutral light. Well, it mostly revolves around the fact that there were a lot of great things removed and some poor things added this year that really set the platform up for the monumental garbage dump that was 2019. Most of those bad changes were delayed until then though, which is why I placed 2018 at this spot. Up next, let's talk about the years that were just kind of, For these next sets of years though, I'm going to be doing a sort of lightning round. This category is intended for the years that not really much happened and or they were just overall boring. No, just because there isn't a lot that happened doesn't mean they're bad per se, but some of them legitimately just have so little information or experience pretty slow years in terms of site development. So with that, on to the lightning round. 2021. This year is placed so low here simply because of how it was just boring. There are lots of good changes to the engine that modernized it for game developers, which was nice. Other than that, and the, 3-day outage, this year is pretty alright. 2015. 2015 was kind of all over the place. The Egg Hunt diverted from form, much to the disappointment of the player base, but I wasn't even actively playing Roblox at the time while that was going on. Again, it's pretty much 2021, but without all the bad stuff, which, relatively speaking. 2009. I can hear the old heads already complaining about this. Truth is, not a whole lot happened in 2009 that was super important or notable in terms of the Roblox as a site and a company. There may be more things that I'm missing, but a lot of that information is lost to time or hard to access. They added Turbo Builders Club, the one membership I never owned, as well as Outrageous Builders Club later that year. There wasn't even an egg drop either. I'm pretty sure there was probably some cool community stuff that happened this year, but I don't really know, so please comment down below if you actually know something that happened. I'd be happy to look into it. 2011. Again, I can hear the old heads screaming about this one. 2011 was the year I actually first played Roblox, until my dad thought the 2MB client was slowing his PC down and deleted it. Roblox initially released on iOS, albeit with very limited functionality, and the legendary "It's free" ad dropped, gifting the world with the wonder of Roblox 3D animations that didn't look anything close to the real platform. They also added personal servers, which I kinda wish were still around, even though they'd be unbelievably chaotic today. Other than that though, 2011 was kinda boring. No egg drop even happened this year either. 2014. This year was actually pretty unique. I wouldn't say it falls into the good category, but it does fall just outside of it. The main reason it doesn't go into the good category is just because, unlike the following years, not a lot happened in it. This year, there was an actual egg hunt that was alright, but pretty creative as well. Also, the infamous and hilarious incident where Jack Smirking Revenge and BitShift said some naughty words on a hot mic that was accidentally left on during a 24-hour live stream. Other than that though, 2014 was decently positive, but not quite the best in my eyes. Finally, we move on to the years which I consider to be good. They can have this distinction by being an important year for the platform, having good updates and events, good community presence, or a combination of the three. I'm going to go in an inverse pattern from the bad part of this video, so expect the lower rankings to be shorter and the top 2 years to be much longer, describing what I found to be good about them alongside some of the bad things. Again, these are inevitably going to be tainted by nostalgia, so just keep that in mind. I'm honestly kind of scared for the response to this. Of course, this is the year Roblox came out, obviously, but just out of the rules I've created for myself, I don't want to make the game's own release a factor in determining whether or not the year was good, because if it did, then wouldn't 2006 be the best year? Anyways, this year, some developments happened that we take entirely for granted today, such as the camera being attached to the player, allowing avatar-controlled games, the ability to jump, the ability to make games multiplayer, etc. Just because of the fact that these were just part of Roblox's development though, I can't really consider them in this year's ranking. Also, these obviously weren't revolutionary changes for the time. Many games at that time had features like this, so I mean, it's not really anything special. On September 1st, though, the platform officially released to everyone, even though the earlier part of the beta was open for everyone. The only super notable thing is that the first major holiday event took place, Santa's Winter Stronghold. Literally the only reason I didn't put this into the meh category was because it was the year Roblox released, which I know is contradictory to what I said earlier, but I don't really care. Other important things were released to the public like the blog, the default Roblox badges, as well as the first Roblox video being published to YouTube. But I've about run out of things I can really mention, so I'm just going to be moving on to next year. 2010 was all around a pretty important year for the platform, mostly because it introduced the idea of sponsored events. The first being the well-remembered, dramatic, and spine-tingling thriller series, Zeke and Luther. Similar to 2006, this year did have some cool things happen in it, alongside there actually being an egg drop called Extravagance in 2010, but there was just simply not a ton to write about here. Another thing that happened this year that was considered an awful move at the time, but in hindsight wasn't really that bad, was the introduction of Builders Club only places. For me, these games were where I have some of my most fond memories. I remember scrounging up enough money to buy a t-shirt for an admin on some BC obby game. Somehow it wasn't a scam, and also somehow I could have totally abused the admin and just didn't for some reason. Maybe I wasn't as devilish of a 9-year-old as I thought, but whatever. Oh, yeah, and they also allowed you to wear more than one hat this year too. The only reason why I placed this in the good category is because this was during a period of Roblox where the community was actually in a pretty good spot. Definitely toxic in some ways, but the company and the community seemed to collaborate better and listen to each other in a much more cohesive way, totally opposite to today. While this year was important, we still have a few more years to go. The next year, while similar in content to 2010, was more fundamental to the creation of the future of Roblox, which is why it's placed higher. This year, while not incredibly dense with content, still managed to introduce some core concepts that would define the Roblox platform even today. Most importantly, this was the year when Roblox finally started giving users more leniency on being able to upload their own content. Of course, this didn't stop epic trollers from trying to upload explicit material, but it was clear the site had enough employees to moderate things effectively for the time at least. Full body pants and shirts were added alongside decals for the games. These two were among the earliest implementations of user-generated content on the platform, which paved the way for more custom content to be added to the game later. This year, we saw Extravagance 2008, marking the first egg hunt of sorts. And they also introduced a system that confused me when I was 9 and still confuses me at 18. The Roblox currency exchange. I don't know why they had to make the system so convoluted when they could have just pegged 10 tickets to 1 Robux, but like whatever. Also, the legendary Yorick's resting place event happened here, which scarred many a children in 2008 for its riveting horror. Other than that though, 2008 didn't have a ton to offer. I feel like it was better than 2006 and 2010 though, due to the fact that it just introduced more than 2006 and was more foundational to the platform than 2010. With that though, every year following truly has a reason to belong in the good category other than just being marginally better than the meh years. Especially different from previous years, many of the upcoming years have lots of important positive changes to the platform that would define it for years, if not a decade and a half to come. As many of us know, 2007 was an incredibly important year for the platform. We saw the introduction of some of the core features that the platform literally survives off of to this day. I'm going to go in roughly chronological order to describe everything that happened this year though. Starting the year off right, Roblox finally allowed users to change their body color and wear t-shirts, the first wearable item on Roblox. Later that month, Happy Home in Robloxia was created, marking the inception of the most important and recognizable user-created build on Roblox, created for the Homestead Furniture Making Contest that same year. In February, two things that were quintessential for the future success of the platform, teams and tools, were released. They obviously had far less functionality than their modern counterparts, but nonetheless, they proved very important for the creation of war groups, more complex games, and the like. The Super Safe Chat button was also added this year. Juice! Sorry. They finally added spawn locations, and they also added hats, marking a massive development that would literally help propel the platform's economy for years to come. Oh, and I forgot to mention, 2 weeks before they added hats, they added one of the world's most important currencies, and I mean this with absolutely no sarcasm, Robux. It replaced Roblox points as the official currency and thus birthed the entire modern Roblox economy. As mentioned in the 2016 section, this was the year they added tickets, the second most important currency that allowed users who were unable to earn Robux the ability to purchase items. I kinda wish they were still around in a sense, so users could make tickets and then spend them on game passes as they were able to before 2016. But if that wasn't enough, 2007 was also the year they introduced Builders Club to the world, marking a significant change in Roblox's business model. And to wrap it up, in December, the first game to hit 100 concurrent players did just that. It was a generic build-to-survive game at that. Not much of a difference to today. Overall, 2007 marked a major transition year for Roblox, similar to 2016 and 2019, where in the beginnings of their late 2000s to mid-2010s business model would begin to take shape. But the final 2 years are by far the most important in the platform's history, as they prepared Roblox to become the game development titan that it is today, if you haven't already figured it out yet. This year, for many people, is often regarded as one of the best. A combination of decent business decisions, a good period for the community, among other things, is why it's looked upon so fondly. Obviously, by now you already know what the number one year is going to be, so let's just say the only reason why 2012 lies below it is because it was just less impactful for the platform as a whole. I'm going to create a list of all the things that happened this year that were actually good, just like the first 2 years, followed by some things that weren't so good. Number 1. It had the first egg hunt in a single place. People remember Egg Hunt 2012 fondly, but personally I don't really see it. I think 2013, although a bit too big, had better eggs and a more dynamic environment. Other than that though, it established a precedent that would last, with an interruption, until 2018 and even partially into 2019. It was still a great event, and had I been there for it, which I would if it wasn't for you, Dad, I'd probably remember it a lot more fondly. The water terrain feature was released, which, depending upon how you view it, is one of the most important features in the game, considering almost every game has it either as a decoration or as a functional object. It's something we all take for granted due to how it's literally everywhere, but it's nonetheless very important. Game passes were released, which fundamentally changed how monetization worked on the platform. Many, if not most games at the time, still used T-Search to detect if a user had purchased a specific VIP upgrade or something like that. This is another one of those motors that powers the entire platform today. But even with this, 2012 isn't quite as much of a transition year as the next year is. Another motor of the Roblox economy was added this year too: trading. Back then, people also weren't getting beamed by chronically online, smart but bad grades in school young teenagers with a forward head and big ass Adam's apple, wearing blue light locking glasses and with massive gaming headphones, while also being 5'10" but weighing 100 pounds, eating all drinkers, Monster Energy, zero sugar, but have still incredibly frail and unhealthy bodies. So it was better then. Number 5. Last, but certainly not least, the April Fool's 2012 hack happened. It's already been discussed ad nauseum. I also briefly discussed it in my history of exploiting video too. The reason why this is in the good category is because I think it was just mildly amusing and provided some spice to the year or something. But that's about all I can think of for this year. Let me know if there was anything else you didn't like about the year, because I sure as hell can't think of anything. The main reason it's placed so high is 1, nostalgia, and 2, it was the early foundations of modern Roblox as we know it today. Also, not that much went wrong with it, but the next year, which you probably have already figured out, literally birthed modern Roblox. "2013, a year of so many highs and quite a few lows too. I don't place it at number 1 purely for nostalgia though. Rather, this year exemplifies what Roblox is about as a platform and its future. Content creation was at its peak. The engine received numerous upgrades and changes that set the stage for better looking games and user experiences, etc. Just like the last year, I'm going to go in chronological order, starting with the good and then ending with the bad. Roblox received numerous physics and client-side upgrades that drastically improved the performance of the physics engine in the game itself. The physics still weren't perfect, but they were getting there. I joined. This year, Roblox also saw incredible leaps and bounds in build quality. 2012 had some really great showcases, but 2013's raising of the maximum part count to around 100,000 or so in games allowed some incredibly intricate and complex games to be created. Mostly they were showcases due to the hardware limitations of the time. Egg Hunt 2013 was baller as hell. It was the first event I remembered, and funnily enough, looking back, I remember Roblox being blown away as the event play shattered the previous concurrent players record with an astounding 19,000 people at once. Although nothing close to the giants of the platform today, it is still certainly respectable numbers for being 9 years ago. Paid access launch. This one is mildly controversial, but was far more so back in the day. However, regardless of that, paid access allowed developers or groups to make money off of something whilst it needs those resources to pay developers, pay for certain assets, like sounds before they were free, among other things. Nowadays, they're a good barrier to entry that encourages people to support developers whilst a game is currently in development, whilst also keeping a general crowd away, or force people to pay for a game that has been in development for 8 years and is basically 100% feature complete and has nearly as many visits as there are people on Earth. Dynamic lighting released later in the year, which, in the same vein of an improved engine, allowed for even more beautiful and dynamic places, literally. We, in the gaming world in general, take dynamic lighting for granted, but Roblox adding this at the same time was a big deal, considering the lighting before was much more static and cheap feeling. Roblox released new materials and revamped the old ones, allowing for more realistic buildings that felt less toy-like. This exemplifies how Roblox is going through a transition period, modernizing the platform and making it less childish. They do this many times over the years to varying levels of success. Although, in this year, not all the modernizations were that bad. And there are a lot more things that I'd like to talk about, but are just too insignificant to matter. Lots of good things did happen this year, as you saw, but let's move on to some of the bad things that happened this year. Literally 5 days after I joined on my current account, Roblox's co-founder Eric Castle passed away due to complications from cancer. Who knows what the platform would be if he had beat it, but nonetheless, his death was incredibly tragic for the community. Rest in peace. Roblox added this thing called the price floor. During this time, I was banned from Roblox because my dad caught me suspiciously laughing at a video of someone using an inappropriate DLL inserted into the game. I'm not joking. Anyways, this forced all users to list their own content at a minimum of 10 Robux or 100 tickets. This was really just to force people to circulate Robux back into Roblox's own hands to make more money. Some dumbass, who's probably an intern, decided to think of the wonderful idea that were outlines. For those of you who don't know, in around mid-2013, Roblox decided to force everybody to have little black outlines on all of the bricks in the game. You might be thinking that's a really stupid idea, and you're 100% correct. Imagine if all the games you play today have outlines. Really dumb decision on their part. And it took a few months for them to finally allow people to change it too. They ended up deprecating and removing them 6 years later, as literally nobody after 2013 even used them. Actually one of the stupidest ideas they've ever had, and it would have been a lot less so had they allowed people to customize it or change it from day one instead of making it default. The Despicable Me 2 event ended, meaning you can't get the Minion Goggles hat anymore. As you can see, some seriously bad things happened this year, but aside from Eric's passing, it was all part of the growing pains of the platform. During this time, Roblox was still figuring out their business plan that would be in place from 2013 to 2016, taking on a more, we're mostly for kids, but you can be cool and an adult and play this game feel, even though that still wasn't the case. It wouldn't be until 2017 and chiefly 2019 where they finally dropped that compromise and pushed to make Roblox a general ages platform rather than catering to a specific demographic, which are still left of the scars of today. Wow, this video was long. As you can see, Roblox has had so many different defining areas that shape the platform as we see it today. From the depths of hell where 2017 and 2019 are satanic twins ruling over the underworld, and the top of the mildly sort of tall hill being 2007, 2012, and 2013. Feel free to share your disagreements with these rankings, with the full list being on your screen now, alongside some added subdivisions for your viewing pleasure. And if you enjoyed the video, tell YouTube you liked it too by liking it up and commenting the year you joined alongside your favorite and least favorite event from the history of Roblox in your opinion. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.